All right. Hello, every pony out there in the world. I was going to say good afternoon, but depending where you are in the world, might be morning, might be night. But either way, thank you for joining us today here for PonyFest Online 3.0. Kind of crazy to think we're already on number 3, but I want to welcome you all to Keeping Friendship Magic, We're Not Flawless. For those who are unfamiliar with me, my name is Forward Progress. I'm the founder here of the Keeping Friendship Magic project. It's a little project I started about 6 years ago or so to basically bring all of the values from My Little Pony and fandoms and pop culture in general and see how we can bring them in the real world when looking at it through a social science lens and kind of just examples from things that just happen in our day-to-day lives. So that being said, we're going to talk today about forgiveness. We're going to talk today about not just forgiving others, forgiving yourself, the fact that we're not perfect. And we're going to talk a little bit about some our heroes and what they mean to us. So got a lot of topics, but the first thing I always like to cover in any one of these panels that I do is my belief, if it actually comes up here. Fantastic. Okay. There we go. My belief. And this is something I truly believe, and it's going to sound super cliche to some of you, but you know what? I still believe in it, and that is the idea that bronies have the power to change the world. And as silly and cliche as it sounds, I do truly believe this to this day. This fandom has been around for almost a decade now, and my interactions throughout the fandom have given me the most joy, the most community, and just the brightest experiences that I've ever had in my entire life. And granted, that being said, we're not all perfect and we still have work to do, but through what we have here as a community, if we really believe in this and we really want to move forward to a better tomorrow, I think we can do it through the power of this fandom, bronyism, as I like to refer to it, and beyond. So let's get into the meat of this panel here. We'll start here with the very simple concept that no pony's perfect, as I said. There's one thing throughout the series that's definitely kind of stuck with me over the years, and that's when people will look at an individual pony and go, oh, well, I thought Rainbow Dash was the element of loyalty, and look what she did in this episode. Or, like, Applejack's supposed to be the element of honesty, and she's telling a white lie in this episode or something, and I understand that. However, the real reality here is that obviously nobody's perfect, and if every pony was perfect, we wouldn't have had Season 4. Let's face it, Season 4 was all about overcoming challenging moments where things weren't quite clear and people, well, I should say ponies, made mistakes. And I think Twilight sums it up best here in the Season 4 finale.
I've been reading our journal, and there's something interesting about the sections that Discord bookmarked. Applejack, do you remember when you had to tell every pony that the tonic Granny bought from the Flim Flam brothers didn't really work?
How could I forget? It was one of the hardest things I ever had to do. I hate to disappoint every pony, but there's no way Granny could have made that dive because this tonic is a fake! But in that moment, I knew I had to be honest. I just knew it. But what's that got to do with opening the chest?
I found that each of you has had to face a situation where living up to the element of harmony you represent wasn't easy. Fluttershy, it was when you realized that the way to show kindness to the Breezies was by forcing them to leave your home.
Oh, the looks on their poor little faces. But I knew that as difficult as it was, pushing them away was the kindest thing I could do.
Rarity, even after Surrey took advantage of your generosity at Fashion Week in Manhattan, you didn't let it cause you to abandon your generous spirit.
I simply couldn't have lived with myself if I didn't do something special for the friends who have always been so generous to me.
Rainbow Dash, you had the chance to fly with the Wonderbolts at the Equestria Games, but instead you chose to compete with your friends.
Sure, but being loyal to my friends was way...
Oh, my turn!
Pinkie Pie, you realized that seeing your friend laugh was more important than proving you were a better party planner than Cheese Sandwich.
Best party I've ever had!
All of you had tough choices to make, but when you made the right one and embraced your element, it helped some pony else make the right choice too.
As Twilight said, all of them had a tough choice that they had to make. Think about going through your lives day to day. We all have those moments where things aren't always clear. And sometimes it's going to be something simple. Sometimes it'll be more complicated. A lot of scenarios in life are not black and white. There's times where you have to make decisions that are going to be difficult. Do I want to... do I be blunt to this person, or do I adjust things to try to, not hurt their feelings as much? And that's an interesting one I wanted to bring up because I want to look at one of these in more detail. And the one that I specifically chose for this panel is to take a deeper look into Applejack's Key episode here. So let's take a quick look.
Charlatan sold my granny a bottle of tonic, and now she's off acting like a filly again.
What's so bad about that?
If she keeps gallivanting around like a yearling, she's apt to drop from exhaustion or worse. What's more, I know for a fact that your friend here is dressing up as a different pony every night so he can pretend to be cured.
Oh, well, that's quite an accusation.
But let's say that it's true.
Hypothetically,
Theoretically,
as I understand, your granny was a famous aquapony.
the star of the show once upon a time.
But hasn't set so much as a hoof in the water since.
Until today, that's right.
Well, then even if our tonic were nothing more than a mixture of apple juice and beet leaves,
Hypothetically,
theoretically,
the fact is that Granny is happier now than before she tried it.
I guess.
so the question is,
Do you really want to be the pony who takes all that happiness away?
There you are! I've been looking all over. Did you find out what's in the tonic?
Honestly, Apple Bloom, as long as it works, I don't suppose it really matters.
Applejack in that episode was faced with an interesting dilemma here because she got to see Granny Smith be more active than she had been in years. And it's just like Flim and Flam put it. Do you really want to take that happiness away? So you see her wrestling in that moment we just watched with that, do I keep true to my honest self? Or where do I put Granny's happiness in the equation here? And it's not an easy choice to make. We're all going to have those moments where we're going to make the wrong choice. We're going to make mistakes. I've made plenty of mistakes in my life, and I know I'm going to make more. The bottom line, though, for all of us is recognizing, we all will make a mistake. We're all going to do things that are going to slip up. It happened. It'll happen soon. It happened in our past, and it's going to happen in our future. We'd like to think we're perfect, but honestly, let's think about it. If everyone was perfect, the world would be a pretty boring place, I'd have to say. And beyond that, whose concept of perfect is perfect? Everyone has their own sense of what they're trying to achieve for themselves. Their goal of what makes perfection. Their vision of it. And it's going to be unique from each person to each person. So, that being said here, what is going to be presented to you on a day-to-day basis is not always going to be easy. You're going to have to make choices. You're going to make mistakes. We all do it. You know what that's called? Being human. And we're all human, as far as I can tell. I can't see any of you out there the way this is. I mean, if any of you figured out the way to transform into a pony, if you found that mirror, let me know. Hit me up. I'd love to take a trip, but suffice to say. back to the episode at hand here. Applejack has a moment where she has to kind of face the reality of the consequences of her actions and realizing the mistake she made.
I hate to disappoint every pony, but there's no way Granny could have made that dive because this tonic is a fake. But you gave it your stamp of approval.
Are you saying you lied?
I am. I didn't mean to, but every pony seemed so much happier. I couldn't bring myself to tell you when I found out the tonic wasn't real. I know it was wrong. I just hope with time I can win back every pony's trust.
But if the tonic is a fake, then how come Granny can swim again? And what about all that acrobatic stuff we just did?
I reckon sometimes you can forget what you're capable of, and it just takes a little extra confidence to remember that it was inside of you all along.
I specifically chose to dive into Applejack's episode because I wanted to talk about the concept of honesty here. There's the old adage that honesty is always the best policy, and it really is kind of true when you boil it down here. But the reality that I think we all face that we kind of forget sometimes is how hard it is in moments to be honest, to say something that might hurt someone else's feelings, for example, or might present a different reality than what they show. And it's hard. It's hard trying to figure out and walk that line. And we all are going to have those moments. And I think at the end of the day, one of the bravest things we can do is be honest. But not only to be honest with others, but to be honest with ourselves. A lot of times we kind of build things up. And in this episode, this is one where Applejack kind of had herself built up. That the tonic, that she was doing the right thing by just letting it go at first and letting Granny be happy, in believing a lie. And she had to face that moment where she knew she had to come clean. She had to be honest. She knew how everybody was going to look at her when she did that. That she wasn't going to get necessarily, people aren't always going to look at you and go, wow, that was brave when you're honest. But it is. And that's what makes it brave, is that the ability to be true to yourself in spite of what others say or might say is one of the bravest things any of us can do. So we're going to make mistakes. We're going to have moments where we're going to have too much anxiety, too much stress, too much pressure to know what's right in the moment. But figuring that stuff out, coming back to it, you can do so much. So, that being said here, I want to talk about forgiving yourself, the next step in this process here. We've talked about the fact that Nopony's perfect, and I talked a little bit here about that idea of being true to yourself. So, we've seen in the series here, and this kind of goes along with everything we were just talking about in the previous section here on being true to yourself, knowing that sometimes it's hard to do these things and that you're going to make mistakes. So that piece of forgiving yourself. We talked about how some ponies took a long time for them to kind of get over certain things. And I think our friend Fluttershy here is a great example of that.
Please, just leave me alone. Fluttershy, what's wrong?
We want answers!
Yeah, we're entitled to know!
What is it, every pony?
We want to know why Fluttershy keeps learning the same thing over and over again. Be assertive already!
Even I've learned more than she has. Why can't I be in the book?
What? Really? Are you attacking my friend because you want to be in a book?
It's okay. I got this, girls. Listen up. I am more assertive. And yes, Took me a while to get there, but can you honestly say that you could learn something one time and completely change who you are? I didn't think so.
Wow. You're way different from the Fluttershy in the book. I don't know how I feel about that.
Fluttershy took some time before she learned exactly how to be assertive and how that worked for her. It was really only when we got the Breezies episode in season 4 that Fluttershy started to realize how sometimes being assertive, doing things that don't seem at their surface to be the kindest thing, really is the kindest thing. There is that element of tough love at times, and it's a fine line you have to walk. There's a concept in social science called framing, and what essentially that boils down to is how you frame your message to others. Is there's ways to get your point across, even being firm, without being a jerk. So it's always one of those things I always encourage people to think about when you're conveying your messages, whether it be in person, online. And online is a big one here, because online, you have that ability, you can type something out and then go back and reread it to yourself without hitting that send button and letting everyone else see. That's a powerful tool, that enter button. So you have that ability to kind of work things out, let you get your emotions out, and then look at it and maybe reframe what you want to say in a way that you think that would get across best to people. That being said, it's hard. And Fluttershy is a great example, because Fluttershy, throughout the series, we see moments where, yes, she's shy, but it's more than that. We see a lot of anxiety throughout the series with Fluttershy, but also not just Fluttershy in the series, but we see moments where we've had stage fright moments. We've had moments of, you have to get up and do something, and it's anxiety inducing. And this is something that speaks directly to me. I've spoken about this at previous panels, of course, but I have clinical depression and generalized anxiety disorder. And I've had it as long as I can remember, since I was a kid. And it made growing up very difficult for me. And a lot of times I made mistakes. I had moments where I just couldn't bring myself to face the outside world. I would hide from it. I can remember a summer when I was a kid, under 10. I don't remember the exact age, but where I hid under the covers for almost the entire summer, when most kids are out there playing outside and enjoying the sun, enjoying their summer vacation. I was so afraid of the outside world that I just buried myself for most of that summer under my covers in my bed. I can remember peeking out of my window with a lot of sadness, because I kind of wished I was out there, but I was too afraid, and I had too much anxiety built up on me to do it. And fast forwarding through life, there's those moments where I've not done something or just kind of stepped away from things because of all the stress and anxiety. I mean, let's face it, I think a lot of us might be able to feel the way Rainbow Dash felt here.
Number 15, let's go! Rarity is ready. Look, ladies, I don't know what to tell you. There's only time for one more performance. If you both want to compete, you'll just have to go out there together. Well, Rainbow Dash, shall we?
That episode, dating way back to season 1, seeing Rainbow Dash, the one who exudes the most air of confidence, having essentially a literal panic attack, is a powerful thing to see, because it shows you that no one is vulnerable. Even those who seem the strongest sometimes suffer the greatest underneath. And that there is that common bond that we share, that we're all going to get stressed. we're all going to have anxiety. We're all going to need to kind of figure our way through it. And it's not always easy. And for each person, it's going to be different. For myself, it's taken a long time, and I'm still making mistakes. I'm still not perfect, and I own up to that. There are times where, like recently, I will tell you, this past couple of weeks here have been incredibly stressful for me, putting together a brand new panel from scratch that I'll be doing later today. Shameless plug. But I just got a promotion at my job that gave me added responsibility. We've been pushing overtime. We're in the middle of a pandemic, and there's crazy things happening out in our country, for those who live here in America, but really all over the world, crazy things are happening. This stuff is intense, and it causes us stress and anxiety. And the most important thing here is being able to analyze and realize this is a thing that happens, and having that strength to realize this is what happened. I can forgive myself from it and learn from what happened. If your anxiety caused you to kind of flake on plans or disappear, where you might have had let friends down. It happened. It's happened to me a lot of times, and I know I've probably annoyed people that are my good friends over the years from it, but I've also learned lessons from it, and I've learned how to make steps and communicate out to everyone what I'm going through and what I aim to do and the steps I want to take. Speaking of steps, there's a really poignant moment here we got from Fluttershy.
You did it, Fluttershy!
See? That wasn't so bad.
And you didn't look completely petrified by the fact that we're all staring at you at all!
How do you feel?
Surprisingly, okay.
Fantastic. Because the Ponytoes have been booked for the Apple Family Zap Apple Jam Extraordinaire.
Oh no, I couldn't do that.
How cool, Fluttershy.
Seriously? I'll get there someday, but for now, baby steps, every pony. Baby steps.
Baby steps. You're not going to fix everything all at once. And that's one of the most important elements about forgiving yourself. You might recognize something you want to change about yourself. You want to grow. You want to improve. And that's great. But that doesn't mean in one moment you will have that and the next day you won't have that. It's going to take time to develop yourself. And you're going to stumble along the way. Again, it's called being human. It happens to all of us. That's part of what makes us human. There's a great line from Star Trek, of all things. Shout out to any of my fellow Trekkies here that are in the audience. That what it means to be human is to have the capacity to constantly better yourself. And it's something I truly believe in. Is that we're all working towards each day making ourselves a better version of ourselves than the day before. So keep with that focus. Accept that things are going to happen. You're going to stumble. It doesn't mean you shouldn't try to do your best. It's not an excuse. But it doesn't mean to stop trying either. Recognize your limitations. Make a plan. Take steps. We all can do this. And that's the power of friendship too. I found where I held this in so much for so long of my life. And I realized by opening up to people and having these conversations and discussing things, you develop those friendships, those relationships that will help support you in your time of need, that will help you grow that much more. And that is the power we find in this fandom. That's the potential we all have here to support one another and keep growing and changing and evolving into something more. And that's amazing. And I'll tell you, I've had a lot. I mean, let's face it. I run a series of panels about how to try to make the world a better place. And it kind of I get self-conscious about this at times. I love what I do. I love this project. But I also recognize that who the heck am I to come on and say, you know, like, this is how you should run your life or something. And I'm not saying that that's what I am doing. My hope is, at least in this project and what I do, that I can reach at least someone and hopefully inspire something. Because, let's face it, not everybody's always going to agree with me, and I'm okay with that. But, you know, by having discussions, maybe we can all grow, and maybe we can learn something. Something we found out in a little episode that we experienced in, I believe, season 7.
I found 2 ponies who have something I think you should hear.
We just wanted to say thank you to all of you. Yeah, our friendship? Well, we were having trouble until we read your journal. It showed us that friends can go through all sorts of tough times and come through stronger than before. It's made us better friends than we've ever been.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I can't tell you how much it means to hear that. Thank you for telling us. We've had a tough couple of days, but knowing we've helped fillies like you...
It makes everything we've been through worth it.
Absolutely. Fads come and go. Friendship is forever.
There are worse things than not being able to do anything without being told I'm awesome.
And we can't change the way other ponies think about us, but we can change how we let it affect us. Or how we don't let it affect us. Go ahead, laugh!
So, this is something I've had to take to heart. And say what you will about that episode. Some people love it. Some people hate it. There is a good message at the end of this. And it's something I've had to take to heart. And I think a lot of us kind of just need to remind ourselves sometimes. As much as we try, we can't please everyone. As long as I've been running this project here, I've had instances where I've had people that are my own friends, that are people I'm close to, that do things that I'm like, I had to wonder sometimes, like, you've watched my panel where I talk about this. Why are we doing this? And then I'm like, I was really getting down on myself for a little bit. And there's a point where I thought about even shuttering the project because I went, are people really getting the message? And it was my friends who reminded me, you know, I had people come up to me and say, you know, this really meant something to me. And I've realized that, at least for me, if I put myself out there and at least one person walks away with a smile or having been impacted, then I did my job. And, again, I'm not trying to make myself sound like some great person or anything. But it's more that reality of, I think all of us can kind of take with that within ourselves of, we're not going to make everyone happy all the time, every day, but we can try to make a difference in our own lives and at least those around us. And if we made somebody's day better, even if it's just one person from one little thing, I would certainly call that a success. And that's a great thing to remember in terms of forgiving yourself. You're going to make mistakes. Things aren't always going to be easy. It's not always going to look clear. But if you're continuing to focus on yourself, being the best version of you can be, and making someone out there smile, I think you're on the right path, and I think you're succeeding. All right, so we've talked about forgiving yourself. We've talked about the fact that no one's perfect. A lot of this has been on ourselves. But I want to spend a moment of this, and we're going to talk a little bit about our heroes in this next section. So, I'm going to call this out here, and I'm going to talk for a moment to let the chat catch up with me. But those in the chat, I'm going to take a look here in a moment. I want to ask a question of all of you, and that is, what qualities do you look for? What makes a hero for you? What qualities do you think a hero should have? What is your definition of a hero? So go ahead, hit up the bitrate stage chat. I'm going to take a look here, see if I can get some good stuff to call out. But yeah, I'm very curious. I always love doing this with the panel. So I need to let it catch up. So usually I can get audience participation to call out, but I'll let you guys catch up here. But yeah, heroes are definitely an interesting thing here. We're going to talk a lot about how we look at our heroes in this next segment. So, all right. Got a few good ones here coming in. Let's see here. I've got Dependable from It Pony. Red card called out morality, honesty, integrity. Skypaws BGP called out moral kindness. Big Gamer with a hero sacrifices themselves for others. Coal Dust, I love this one. A hero stands up for those who need it, for those who can't stand alone. Taylor, for me, they have to make me laugh, smile, and be trustworthy. Heroes should be loyal and dependable. A moral code is also a huge plus from the Blazing Optimist. Somebody is singing Enrique Iglesias in the chat. I love you guys. Please show up for the meme panel later. Those are wonderful things. So, oh my gosh, somebody said Larson. I actually talk about Larson in a different one of these panels, but Larson's written a lot of great episodes that have helped to inspire us. I was actually watching, just total aside, that's not part of the panel, but in prepping for one of my new panels, I rewatched some Pony episodes recently, and I rewatched them Mending Fences. And seeing that last scene of the party that Twilight throws for Moondancer, and that moment they hug, and she's wiping away tears, it still to this day gives me chills and makes me start to tear up. So, oh, one more. I definitely want to call out Meisner-Croft says, someone who inspires the best of you. I like that. I know there was more than I was able to get to, but I'm going to agree with a lot of this. There's this idea we have about heroes, and let's face it, we're going to talk about the concept of hero worship within the terms of this panel here. I'm going to talk a little bit about what I look at in a hero. I don't know if everybody will know this or not, because I recognize that I'm about to reference something that's over 20 years old, but the Foo Fighters have a wonderful song and music video called My Hero, and talking with Dave Grohl, who is like my god of rock music, I have to say, and a wonderful human being. He said that in writing that song, he views a hero as an everyday person who strives to do something great. I believe the music video was something akin to a man, just an everyday man who went to save people from a building that was burning or collapsing or whatnot. That's what I look at, is my heroes are people who always strive to be their best and inspire others. And the best thing I want to say is I look to my heroes as people who are not flawless. I'm going to get into examples of that as we go on, but I want to talk about this concept of hero worship here. And I'm going to ask you all a question. How many of you have gone to a convention where you get to meet a VA or see someone, or, you know, something that, you know, you've seen a VA that you loved or somebody from the series, and this was maybe your reaction?
Think fast. This is your big chance to impress her with your quick wit and courage. I am such a huge fan.
I bet you a lot of us have done that. I am willing to bet. I know when I first started getting on the convention scene, it was kind of that shock of, like, right there in front of you are these people who are voicing these characters or writing the series, directing it, what have you. And we have these perceptions of our heroes a lot of times. And granted, this is not everybody, so don't take this as a general rule of thumb. But there's a general consensus about those that we look up to in heroes that these are people we almost regale as, well, perfect. And that our heroes can do no wrong. And if they do wrong, then they're not our heroes anymore. And that's a thing, that's a big thing I want to talk about here, is that's not the case. Because everyone that we interact with, yes, there are role models. Yes, there are heroes and people we look up to. But they're also people. Everyone on the show staff is a person. You know, I've gone in my time from being the newbie kid who just went to his first convention. It was like in awe. And then I've gotten to talk to several people from the show one-on-one or do panels with them. And the biggest takeaway I have is these are just people. And that's what's great about them. They're people who did this show, see what's in this community, and want to come out and interact with us. I mean, that's kind of my definition of hero, are these great people. But at the same token, I know they're just people. And I have that perception of them as they're another human being. But doing what they do and coming out to interact with us, putting on that smile, signing autographs, what have you, they don't have to do that. But they do that for us. And that's something great. But again, back to that concept of perfection and expectations. Sometimes we meet our heroes and realize they're not exactly what we thought they would be. There's something different there, and that they're not perfect.
Help me get all these rings off. If we can remove the giant ring at the bottom, the whole fortress will collapse.
Was this your plan all along?
I had to find a way to get into the fortress.
You did it on purpose? But I thought...
Didn't count on how heavy this ring would be, though. As having a little help can be handy sometimes.
Daring Do, of all people, had to learn a big lesson in that episode. That everyone needs help sometimes. There's that reverse side of this, where people who are thrust into these positions, where they are suddenly in the spotlight, or they are the ones who are doing the dirty work, whatever have you. In this case, AK Yearling going and as Daring Do and saving these artifacts and trying to work towards something, thinks she can do it all herself. And then she goes home, writes her books, everyone adores the character. We see throughout the series that it's not that simple. And she has to learn that she needs help sometimes. She might be strong, but she's not perfect. And it takes friendship to realize that, and opening up to the idea of, you know what? Sometimes I need to let my friends help me. Because that's what friends are for. Friends are there to help you in your time of need. And that is the magic of friendship, let's face it. But on top of that, the fact that that everyone needs help, even our heroes. Our heroes not only are going to need help, but they're going to slip up at times. They're going to do things sometimes that might not be perfect. And we see this again with Daring Do.
My last quest took me to a village in southern Equestria, where I started seeing these.
Wake of Destruction, Daring Do ruins entire village marketplace.
Dare or scare? Local rogue Daring Do involved in frightful fiasco.
Daring Do leads Bull into China shop during high-speed chase.
That's enough! Every pony I tried to help is mad at me.
So all we have to do is go down there and explain to these ponies that none of this stuff is true.
Easy peasy cheesy.
But that's just the thing. It is true.
What?
I guess I've always been so focused on saving priceless relics and stopping the bad guys that I never really thought about the mess I leave behind.
Then you are in a tricky pickle. But why is all this happening now?
I guess ponies are finally fed up. Either way, I'm done with adventures. Having or writing.
I'm going to say this, and I'm going to be blunt about it. Heroes aren't flawless. They are people just like you and I. Or Pony in this instance. So they're gonna mess up. Everything we talked about leading up to now applies to everyone. The fact that none of us are perfect. The fact that we're gonna have moments where we're not gonna know what the right choice is. Here, what we deal with is this concept of collateral damage, where you're trying to do what's right. You're trying to do good things. And sometimes in trying to do the right thing, you lose, things happen along the way. Where Daring Do was so focused on saving these relics, saving these artifacts, that she leaves this path of quote-unquote destruction, as they put it in the episode, in her wake. There are things she does, and she doesn't even realize that she's doing it until somebody kind of calls her out on it. And this is the interesting thing, and I've seen it so frequently in our time, where you'll have a celebrity that will kind of get knocked down, and how we as a community, as citizens of this world, react. Because a lot of times it's I believed in you, I trusted in you, and you betrayed my trust. And that can be true in times. But in some instances, there's moments where people are going to screw up. And it's how they respond, how they react, how they grow out of it that makes the biggest difference in the world. I have an example I use, because I don't think this individual is perfect either, but I think it's a great example. I like to talk about Robert Downey Jr. of all people in this, because for those of you who may not be aware, once upon a time, Robert Downey Jr. he did some not so great things. Dabbled a little too much into the alcohol and the drugs, and honestly was somewhat of a social pariah for a little bit. But what did he do? He took time, he got sober, worked on himself, and now he's Iron Man, and has been for quite some time. That's pretty awesome to me, is somebody who can get knocked down and pick themselves up. That is a great thing to look for in somebody that I like to look up to. You know who else I love Weird Al. Shout out to Cheese Sandwich, of course. But I remember in the 90s, one of his biggest hits ever was Amish Paradise. And unbeknownst to him, Coolio and company didn't want him to do that parody. And it caused kind of a ripple, and he was kind of down on himself for a while, but he was able to kind of get through that, reached out, wanted to make amends, and kept on reinventing himself for new generations, keeping his sense of humor, keeping himself strong, and now he's Cheese Sandwich and awesome. And I think, honestly, his most recent album was the best of his entire career, personally. So speaking of all of this, we see this with Daring Do at the end of that episode.
I saw an opportunity to write you out of the story for good! And with the destruction you leave in your wake, it didn't take too much to convince ponies you were a villain.
You're wrong, Caballero, and I won't let you break my spirit again. Because I'm never gonna give up hope that I can protect ponies and ancient treasures from miscreants like you. Thanks for helping me come to my senses. You two are true friends.
Are you kidding? That was awesome! We're just glad you're back to your old self again.
Me too. But I'm glad I realized that even if you're fighting for something good, you're still responsible for your actions.
And if something bad bad happens that you didn't intend, you shouldn't give up hope or lose faith in yourself. Yeah, all you gotta do is make it right. Feel free to use that in your next book.
You know, I think I will.
I don't know how to say it better. It's really summed up there. And the best thing is, and I would have put a clip in, but I still already have so many clips in here, and we have to watch on time. But after that scene, at the very end of that episode, we see Daring Do go back and make amends with the various people that she did wrong. And we've all found out that throughout the series that, you know, she's had those moments where she's, you know, had ponies that possibly weren't, you know, that she may have harmed or may have upset the balance in ways, and she goes back and makes amends to those people in a nice montage there at the end. You're gonna make mistakes. You're gonna have moments where you're looked down upon too, but recognizing it, excuse me, dropping things, recognizing it and going forward and presenting yourself as I'm working towards building myself into something better. You can be your own hero in those regards. And that's, I think, what we all strive for is, like I said earlier, every day you're working to be the best possible version of yourself. We're analyzing when you made the mistakes, moving forward, and learning from them. So since we're talking about making amends, the obvious next topic is redemption. And we're going to talk about redemption. I don't think of any two characters that fit that theme better than these two right here. Let's face it. And it all starts off right away with Sunset Shimmer and that first Equestria Girls movie.
You will never rule in Equestria. Any power you may have had in this world is gone. Tonight, you've shown everyone who you really are. You've shown them what is in your heart.
I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I didn't know there was another way.
The magic of friendship doesn't just exist in Equestria. It's everywhere. You can seek it out, or you can forever be alone. The choice is yours.
But all I've ever done since being here is drive everyone apart. I don't know the first thing about friendship.
I bet they can teach you.
Remorse. Showing remorse for your actions is a big step one in redemption. Is we all are going to make mistakes, and we're all going to have moments where it's going to be tough, but we have to admit we did something wrong. We messed up, and regardless of what the reason is, sometimes it's things like we talked about earlier with anxiety and stress and depression. Is you're going to have those moments where that's causing it, but it may not be something you're trying to do and you are dealing with something, but sometimes the actions you take are still gonna hurt somebody, even if you have a good reason. So you can explain what happened, but still saying that I'm sorry that this hurt you and I didn't want to, and I'm looking at this and I'm trying to make myself better each day. Sunset Shimmer got way over her head in the first Equestria Girls movie. I mean, the biggest thing, and this was pointed out to me by a good friend of mine, shout out to Brian the Fuzzy out there, is that in the transformation scene when she puts on Twilight's crown in the first Equestria Girls movie, she's literally crying because she's realizing in that moment that she can't handle this. This is not what she wanted. She knows instantly she was wrong. And when she's defeated, there's that powerful moment where she goes, I didn't know there was another way. Sunset truly thought, up to that point, that acting the way she did and seeking things out the way she did was the only way to get this power, to get this, influence, whatever have you. And it's through the magic of friendship, though, that she gets taught a different way. Now, there's the way Sunset reacted when doing something wrong and being defeated. another way to react might not be the best way.
When Twilight and her friends defeated me, I chose to run away and seek revenge. You don't have to. You can be the leader your subjects deserve.
There is no revenge you could ever conceive of that will come close to what I will exact upon you one day, Starlight Glimmer.
Now, as we all know, reacting like that in this case gets you turned to stone eventually. But, probably won't happen in real life, but suffice to say, that would be an example of how not to react. I only have about 5 minutes left, so I'm going to try and really speed through this last portion here, but one thing we see in there is something in sociology we refer to as the actor-observer effect. Essentially what that is when something happens that shakes your worldview, if it happens basically, if something happens to you, your instant mental kind of like shortcut is to go, something is wrong with them. Something's wrong with the outside world. Where at the end of that season 6 finale there with Chrysalis, she's been shown a different way to live, to share love. And she rejects it all, going, no, this is your fault, Starlight Glimmer. You took my hive from me. It wasn't the fact that I was doing something where I was using my, my hive to steal love instead of sharing love. She's looking at it that way. The converse to that is when we see somebody else do something weird, we tend to think that it's their fault. It's not the outside world. It's something wrong with them. And I can get in more detail, but suffice to say, and these are things to think about. Your mind has a lot of shortcuts. Your brain is a wonderful, powerful computer that does all these great things, but it's also lazy at times. And it has a lot of shortcuts built within to protect your self-esteem and keep you going on a day-to-day basis. And that's what we see within this, and just kind of being mindful of your brain's going to react with your emotion first. You're going to react a certain way in your brain immediately. Sometimes just take a moment, step back, and really think about what's going on and analyze everything here going forward. And that way you know if you made the right decision or not. Sometimes that's how you realize you made a mistake. And sometimes you have to acknowledge in those moments, going forward, you did make a mistake and this is how you grew.
I'm so sorry.
It's okay. We've all been there.
Really?
Manipulated an entire town into giving up their talents so they wouldn't think they were special.
Overpowered by magic I couldn't control and created a rift between two worlds, almost destroying both of them in the process.
Turned an entire school into my own personal zombie army in hopes of conquering a distant pony world.
Wow, we are a really forgiving group.
One of the biggest pieces to redemption is acknowledgement. Acknowledging what you did. You can't hide from it. It happened. It's there. Acknowledge it. Acknowledge that you've learned from it and you're moving forward. And as we saw in the Daring Do moment, take action. Show that you are taking action to be a better person, to better yourself. We're all going to have moments where we're going to slip. We're going to trip. We're going to fall. We're going to do things that we are going to regret. We're going to go within ourselves. We're going to feel those moments where it's just like, oh, shudder. But it's okay. Because it happens to all of us. Learn to forgive yourself. Talk to others. Learn how to move forward. And always aim to be the best that you can be. And that is what I call keeping friendship magic. I've got like 30 seconds left. So I want to thank each and every one of you that watched today. I want to thank you all for tuning in. And honestly, it means a lot to me to be able to do this with you on my birthday. So Thank you. I will be back at 3:30 to do a crazy meme panel idea we made this week with my friends Thoth Penswell and Nova Rose. So please tune in then. Otherwise, I do want to thank you all for joining me. And yeah, I'll see you all later. Thank you again. And remember to keep friendship magic out there in the world. Take care. And I hope I'm made aware when I can stop waving. Thank you all again.